few problems here, which is that, like many metals, it has a certain amount of elasticity. This basically means that it will spring back to its original shape unless it's forced past the point at which, and this is where the heating process comes into play. Out of an abundance of caution, I'm going to basically wasted it all as it's set before I could get it into the
chamber. Oh dear. Second time round though, I've mixed it properly, allowing it to simply be poured into the mould. At this point, however, another disaster strikes, as it's unfortunately started spewing out of the bottom as its weight is too much for the seal. This is definitely the messiest day I've had for a while, and it just goes to show that not everything goes to plan at DIY Perks HQ. Anyway, after doing it in batched layers to reduce the chances of leakage, it appears to have worked, as despite the setbacks, the plaster has set perfectly around the inside of each panel. And after filling the blue tack holes and sanding them flush, it's time to try them out. The brass sheet again, as expected, nicely follows the curvature of the frame, only this time its central section is much closer to how it needs to be. Moving the torch around a lot should heat the whole thing up more evenly than last time, avoiding hot spots. And with that, it's the moment of truth. You know, I think it's just about worked. Comparing it directly to the original side panel, we can see that its curvature is only a millimetre or so off perfection, which I'd say is pretty good going, and it's possible to improve things even further by trimming down the excess on the sides and curving the corners with a file. Absolutely brilliant. The success of these side panels means that the project has a chance at working, so I'm very happy that they've come out this well, especially after all the disasters. As you can see though, they are rather messy looking and definitely need some cleanup and polishing work before they really start to look good. But before I get on with that and then put everything together to see just how good it really looks, it's time for a quick ad from this video's sponsor, KiwiCo. KiwiCo is a super cool company that make hands-on projects for kids that are designed to expose them to concepts in science, technology, engineering, art and maths, also known as STEAM. The idea is to get them thinking about how things work and how to problem solve early on, but in a way that's fun and engaging. Each crate contains everything needed for its project, and the included magazine is stuffed full of extra content to learn even more about each crate's theme. They offer 8 subscription lines so that you can get a new project every month to look forward to, with each line catered to different age groups so that everyone can get involved and have fun. Now, KiwiCo believe that small lessons learned today can mean big, world-changing ideas tomorrow, and sometimes when you're small, it's easier to think big. Now, on a personal note, I actually did similar kits to these when I was small, and it definitely set me on the path to being able to run this channel and make all the things that I do. And while that's not world-changing, it is an example of things that you are exposed to when you're a child can really impassion you for the future. Now, if you're a viewer of the channel and go to kiwico.com/DIYperks50, you can get 50% off your first order on any crate, and you can find that also linked to in the description. So, if it's of interest to you or anyone in your circle, I hope that it provides plenty of enjoyment. Now, the polishing process that's going to make these brass pieces shine is actually very time consuming, but it's totally going to be worth it. The first step is to use some wet and dry sandpaper to take the worst scratches out of the surface, gradually using finer and finer grit values in several passes until it's extremely smooth, after which it can be followed up with some metal polish. This really takes it into another league entirely, and the shine polished brass has is just sublime. To finish this part off, all it needs now is its new power switch mounting in place, followed by the acrylic side wings from the original. These side wings work in tandem with an LED board to make a really nice gentle glowing effect, which should look quite interesting reflected in the brass. So with that, it's time to see whether it can actually fit onto the PlayStation. While it is a little stiff, everything does clip back together nicely, and after screwing it all down, we can catch an impression of the final aesthetic. And oh boy, I'm pretty excited having seen this. At this point, the side panels too can be finished using the wet and dry method, though before doing the final pass with polish, I need to devise some kind of mounting method for them. You see, the original panels use individual pegs that clip them in place, but as mine are blank at the moment, there's nothing to stop them from falling away. So to recreate these pegs, I got a few more brass pillar supports and trimmed them down at an angle. This allows me to set them against the inside of the panels, using the original shell as a template. As they have a hole down the middle of each one, it allows me to stick some solder down them and very carefully and briefly heat them up from underneath, which melts the solder and strongly welds them in place. As you can see, I've gone with different lengths on each one to match the peg lengths, and I have soldered a little disc in the top corner which acts like a clip, just like on the originals. This leaves me with one last thing to do, which is to finally polish up these side panels, after which they can be clipped in place. Are you ready for this? The warm, reflective nature of the brass, combined with the delicate curves of the original design, refine the aesthetic far beyond what I could have hoped for, resulting in what is perhaps one of the most stunning consoles in the world. A couple of things to note here is that compared with the original, the look really is quite striking, and certainly more eye-catching, and makes a nice companion to the brass monitor that I made in my last video. I did have to move one of the Wi-Fi antennas outside at the back though to keep the Wi-Fi signal strong, but as the back will rarely be seen, this isn't too much of an issue. Now, brass always looks great when it's polished up, but in this case, because of all the different curves and the angles on the PlayStation 5, it looks particularly stunning, almost like it's something out of the old Star Wars, which can only be a good thing in my book. Now, I don't normally do this, but if you want to directly influence the video I make next, hear me out, because I've got an idea of what I can do with the PlayStation 5 that's aesthetically the polar opposite of what you can see right here. So if you want to see that, all you've got to do is press like on this video, because I'll just be monitoring the likes, and if it's above average, I'll get making it. So if you want to see that, you know what to do. But until then, I'm Matt, you've been watching DIY Perks, and I hope I see you next time. Goodbye for now.